So the way this works, we'll bring this over here. Just take the J channel, and the big end goes on the back side. So that just loops over like that. And we slide this up until it hits the 1 inch line. And so like I mentioned, that's the first one, and we want it to be 1 inch in, so that when another one is 1 inch from the center, because this is 1 inch from the end to the center of this hole. And so if I have 1 inch to the center of this hole and then 1 inch to the center of this hole, that's 2 inches in between them. So we just turn that on, pop that through, and then we just move this just like that. Hold it down. Boom. And that's 2 inches on center. And we just keep on working up the J channel. Sometimes it jumps like that, but that's okay. It's always worth it to get those little hairs off now, because I don't want to come back and do it again. Get each hole as completed as possible in one go. Because I know I'm lazy, I'm not coming back. Right here at the end, this isn't going to actually work for another one. So what I'm planning on doing is essentially cutting this at 1 inch from the center of this last hole. And so that way it mates up with the next piece a lot easier. And that's just because these aren't exactly like some divisible by 2. I think it's like by 1.5 or something like that. In terms of the length of these. So yeah, that's how you end up making a whole bunch of holes in the J channel. And so now we got that all the way down. Next step, of course, is to test fit them with some pixels. So let's go ahead and do that. Now that we got the J channel all drilled, we just got to put in some pixels, and these just pop right in. Now, since I didn't use 12mm drill bit, I used something that's pretty close. It was a couple 64ths less than ½ inch. Some of these will end up not being exactly correct. So I have a glue gun over there that I'm going to be able to use, hot glue, to make sure that we get what we need in terms of all the pixels going in. Now, I have, one of the things that I want to do is on this one, it's got 40 pixels long, and I want to be able to have a connector, like a JST connector like this on this end. And so I've got this strand of pixels, which has, I don't know, 30 some odd on it. And then I've got this little bunch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off probably about here. Run this one from the other end in order to have the end of this wrap up somewhere around here or whatever. And then I will go ahead and use these solder seal connectors to connect up these two strands, getting rid of the JST connector since I don't have the JST on this side and I don't have any other ones. So that way I can have this one part be its own thing, because I don't know if anybody can decipher this, but I've got a piece that goes here, piece that goes there, piece that goes there, piece that goes there. And so this is this piece that I'm working on. And I want to make sure that I can put this piece up without having it soldered to all the rest of the pieces, because in my experience installing it over my garage, it's actually pretty difficult to put them up. So I'm just going to do one at a time and then connect them using the JST connector when I get this side up too. And then as for the power injection, I'll probably just use probably use a solder seal for those again. So we'll just go ahead and work on that. And as you can see, it's got these little tabs. And it seems to be working pretty well. I know that some of the holes ended up being a little bit oblong. Most of these look pretty decent though. But, you know, this is not exactly a precise science. There's a reason that when you go to the prop vendors, they use laser cut, because lasers are going to be a little bit better than my janky ass drill bit setup that I have. It seems to be working pretty well for the most part. All right. And so now we've got these two that I need to connect. So I'm just going to trim this off here and then split these up, strip them, and then use the solder seal. Grab my heat gun. And it looks like, fortunately, none of the pixels need to be hot glued in, because it works, but it's a hassle. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that. And the way that I run power on these, I don't have any power, any DC plus actually coming through. I mean, as you can see, this comes from the port. I don't have anything coming through from the controller. So all I've got is the ground and the signal. Signal, obviously, you need to be able to tell them what color to do. The ground needs to be common across all the pixels, even across the power injection. So since I'm going to have to do power injection on this strand anyway, because this is going to end up being one string that goes around. So this will be the connection to the controller, and then it'll just keep on going for another couple of hundred pixels or something along those lines. I know I'm going to have to do power injection, so since you need power injection, since you need all the pixels to be less than 50 from the power injection, since this is 5 volts, I'm going to do power injection here at the start of the next one that goes across here. And so therefore, and since this brand of pixel strands actually has a power injection lead on the in side, this is the out direction. So on the in direction, they actually have power injection leads. So I'll use that and connect the power injection cables to that. And that means that the power will be running from here this way. And you don't want to have the controller power and the power injection power from two different fuse areas. You don't want that coming from the same area. That's just a bad thing. So I actually never rely, unless I can power it completely from the controller, I never rely on using the power controller power, or the pixel controller power. So anyway, so I'll go ahead and applying these solder seal things is pretty cool. So let me strip everything real quick. Alrighty, so these ones are 20 gauge, I think. They're not 18 gauge, that's for sure. Anyway, so use the red ones. And so I'll start with the red. Actually, I'll start with the white since the white's on the bottom. So pretty easy. You don't have to twist them or anything like that. It's actually a little bit better if you leave them kind of loose. So put one through, and let me zoom in here. All right. Tilt this down a little bit so it's easier to see. There we go. My mount for the phone broke, so that's why you get the little vibrations. I hope that hasn't been annoying. If it is, sorry. Okay, so basically you put them in on both sides, and there's a little bit of overlap underneath there. So you just make sure that you have the copper part, the wires, actually overlapping. And then you can use a torch or a lighter. I like to use the heat gun. It's a little bit more easy to use. And just heat it up. It takes a minute. And then you're basically done when you see the solder running. Because once it does that, it'll absorb everywhere. And so that is now sealed. Let's see if I can straighten it up again, because the little individual wires will get caught on that seal and also on the edge of the solder sometimes. So it can be a little finicky. All right. So now that's good. One thing I found by mistake is that if you're not careful where the solder gun or the heat gun is pointing, you're going to end up melting stuff. And since I'm working on a plastic table with plastic J-channel, it's a little bit difficult to find a good place for it. Anyway, as you can see, there's a little bit of solder going on there, and so that means that the solder has propagated and the joint is, or the connection is secure. Right, one more. There we go. There it is. And using this thing, this heat gun, whoa, super zoomed in, I forgot, sorry. Using this heat gun works really well. For the smaller ones, I find that either the low or the high setting work. For the blue ones and the yellow connectors, especially when you have a bunch of wires in there, I usually start off with the high and then see where that goes. It just takes a little bit less time. It'll do it even with the lower setting. It just takes a while. And that is this one done. So now all I have to do is put together the next leg. This one, 48 inches and 109 inches for a total of wherever I put it. 157, and then so I need 189, which is a full length one of these, so I don't have to really measure it, and then I need 68 inches, so I need to cut another one down. And then, like I mentioned, that one will start with a JST connector like this, the ingoing side, and then I'll run it however far it'll go, and then we'll go from there. So now that we've got one length of this, down here we got that connection, over there we've got the one that's going to go to the controller. What we're going to do is we're going to put it into the roof. And as you can see, we're up on the roof. So here are the underside of the eaves. Now, basically what's going to end up happening is it's going to go right up against here. So we kind of show. So this will go like that. And so the bottom part will be flush eventually. And then up here, we'll drive some screws through here. But first off, since it's difficult to hold up the whole thing and since it's flexible, what we're going to do is we're going to put some nails. Now, I have this little story stick here. This is how far up I want the nails from the edge. So like that. And then I want this spacing in between nails, except for I'm actually lying and I usually do them. So I do that. If you can see, that spacing is from one slot to the next slot, basically center on center. And so what I do is I put a nail in here where I want to start, put the stick up, put a nail in on that side, then I move the stick over, put the nail up there, or put the stick on the next side of the nail, put another nail down there, and then keep on going. But what I will end up doing is I'll end up removing every other one, because I don't want too many nails, because they're actually kind of a hindrance and it's a little bit difficult to put this whole thing up on there, especially if you've got it like 8 feet long and it's all flexible and you're up on a ladder and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and put the nails, show you what it looks like, and then show what it looks like after it's mounted with the nails, and then start putting in screws. All right, with the nails, nothing super fancy about it, just nail, nail, and then a couple over there. Now I found that you have to actually drive them in a little bit so that they're fairly stable, because with this thing being as flexible as it is, especially when you get it up, it actually makes a big difference, and it kind of, it's pulled out nails before. So let me see if I can do this one-handed, otherwise I'm gonna have to show you what it looks like afterwards. All right, so start off over here, and then nail is through, nail is through. Where's that nail? Nail is through, and then there's one last one right there. And so as you can see, this is pretty much even. It's close enough for government work. I mean, we'll be able to actually go and make some fine tuning when we put in the screws. And then for the screws, I brought my little screwdriver, and I brought a handful of screws. I suppose this would be better if I had a camera person, but I don't, so there we go. At any rate, so I'm gonna move that. Since we're gonna have another one going this way, I wanna make sure that this is not too close. So I actually took a measurement on my story stick. I really like story sticks, they're super easy. Well, I think I did. At any rate, so we take a look and see, yeah, right there. So that line right there is where we're gonna be, how far out back we need to be. So as long as I do like that, and then that line right there is fine. So it's got enough room. It's not perfect, but you know, whatever, it'll wedge in. And so, yeah, I can't move it back any further because right here we're up against the edge. So it'll be close enough. If anything else, if I need to, I can trim that down using a knife or something like that. At any rate, I'm gonna get some screws up here and then come back. All right, in order to combat that thing where this won't slide any further, I'm just gonna go ahead and pop this out. I got it a little bit too far in to do it by hand. There we go. All right, and then the screws, I'm gonna leave them basically a little bit loose until I get that other piece in, just to make sure that I can slide it and I can come in and do that. But yeah, so I've got screws almost in all the places. I gotta finish those off down there. I put in more screws than nails. So basically every 6th slot has a screw. I figured that's a happy medium between spending all day up here putting in screws and getting some decent support. So let me finish. Alrighty, now that this part is done, it's fully movable. Well, I mean, I still left a couple of the nails in. I generally speaking don't actually take out the nails. I don't super care. So now I have this stretch to do, and then I have the one over there, and then there's another one around the corner which continues going in that direction. But this is 11, 12, 13 feet off the ground, so I'm not going to do this while trying to videotape because that's just insanity, and I like my legs unbroken. So I'm going to go ahead and do some nails up here, and then bring out the ladder, and then do the nails across the rest of the way. And then it's basically the same as installing this. It's very straightforward. So what we'll do is we'll come back when it's time to connect these. I mean, basically on either side of each of these lengths, I've got the JST connectors. So it'll be very easy to connect these, but in some of them I'm gonna have to, like in the one in that corner there, and then in the corner, the next corner around the way, which you can't see from here, I'm gonna have to solder together the power injection cable. So, but that's just, you know, using those solder seal connectors. So, anyway, let me go get the next leg, and I'll get back to that. Here we go. They're all installed. Got them going all the way down this eave right here. And then, let's see if I can get out of the sun. Got them up here, going down this way, up that, and then over here. And then I've also got them up on this level, going all the way around. this way and then across here. Now, one of the problems that I came across was on this, the rafters coming out from the rafter joists actually sat a hell of a lot lower. So I had to cut out, and they're still too low. So there's like, you know, that one pixel right there you can see, and there's a little bit of mess up over here. So I can go and do some modifications there, but right now I'm just going to let it be because I don't feel like dealing with the ladder anymore, if I'm honest. So yeah, now all of it, see, as you can see, I'm starting to wire up, but that's everything as it stands. Next time I will start talking about the controller. All right, thanks.